Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirānasya Gnānanjana-Shalakaya Chakshurunnīti Samyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapanātikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Rupakalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakala Raghunathānutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanutamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityaname Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So since yesterday morning we haven't had an opportunity to take questions. So many of you, this session will be devoted exclusively for questions and answers. And I have many written questions that have come to me, and we'll go through them one by one. First question. If a non-devotee has caused distress or pain to us and our loved ones, should we still apply the four principles of austerity of speech in a mode of goodness? How can we try not to be coarse in our speech when our mind and heart have been disturbed and hurt? For one thing, now that we realize how painful it is to receive those sharp arrows of hurtful words, at least we can make a resolve that we will not speak like this to others. That's the first thing, because we know what the consequences are. As far as how you should deal with someone who is not a devotee, who has caused pain, well, it largely depends on the circumstances. You have every right to defend yourself in case of attack of some sort, or in case you're getting exploited. When we say that one should be in the mode of goodness, it doesn't mean that in the practical world one will just allow oneself to be trodden over. That is at heart the principle of Trinadapi Sunichena. And in an extreme case, very elevated devotees may actually do such a thing. But if we are not on that platform, if we are we are devotees who live our everyday lives in this world, and we have roles to perform in this world, then we may need to take some step. Remember, when it came to the Pandavas and the Kauravas, there was gross injustice that was done against them. And Arjuna said, let's forget it, let's just go away, let's just walk away into the forest. You will remember that Yudhishthir made a proposal that they should get 5 villages, one for each brother. But Duryodhana refused that. And he said, I will not even offer as much land as is there on the head of a pin. So when things came to a head like that, and Krishna tried his best, and still things were not working out, then there had to be war. So I'm not saying you should go into war with these people. But what I'm saying is, What it needs is wisdom to know how to deal with people in certain situations so that you can defend your legitimate interests to prevent pain and injury to your family members and others. At the same time, be conscious that you are a devotee. So you can't do things that are not becoming of a devotee in your efforts to protect your interests. And this calls for wisdom. To what degree and when, in what circumstances, we just take a humble position and say, whatever this is Krishna's arrangement, whatever it is, we will not resist, we will not respond. And on the other hand, when we will say, no, we must respond. So that requires some wisdom. We cannot give an answer to a general question. It would depend a lot on the specific circumstances of the case. And even when there is a decision to give a response, it must be well considered as to what kind of a response. And there are so many grades of responses that can be given, from very mild upwards. One time, there was a snake. And Narad Muni, the great devotee, made him a disciple. Narad Muni is such a powerful guru, he can make anybody a disciple. So this snake had formerly been a very poisonous snake, and he used to bite. And naturally the person who the snake bit would die because of the poison. So Narad Muni said, now that you have become a Vaishnava, a devotee, now you should not bite. So the snake said, all right. And Narad Muni went away. He came back after a certain period of time, and he was passing by and he said, let me visit my dear disciple, the snake. He went to the snake and he saw that the snake was all black and blue, and he had been beaten almost to a pulp. And Narad Muni was shocked. He said, my dear disciple, what happened? How is it that you have gone to this condition? So he said, Guru Maharaj, you told me that I should not bite. And there were these people who attacked me. And because formerly I would have responded, but now that I am a devotee, I'm not supposed to bite them. So I just took all the beating. So then Narad Muni said, my dear disciple, I just asked you not to bite. I didn't tell you not to hiss. Yes, you get the point? So it depends on the circumstances, what you need to do to protect yourself. Let's say you're walking on the street, and God forbid that doesn't happen to you, and some burglar or somebody comes to take away your belongings. So what would you do? Of course, if he's armed, you better give away everything. But in the situation, if he attacks somebody who is with you, will you say it's Krishna's arrangement and let it happen? You wouldn't. You would act. So also, it depends on the circumstances. You may act, you may respond, but appropriately, suitably, according to the level of your Krishna consciousness, according to your nature, according to the circumstances, etc., the response will vary. But at any time, we should remember that we are devotees, and there are certain red lines we should not cross. The next question. You spoke about not criticizing others. So if we come in contact with a non-devotee, and if we condemn or criticize them for their ill treatment towards us, do we inherit their sins? And does our piety go away? Well, it's connected to the first question. It depends on what kind of ill treatment they have given. And it also depends on what kind of response you are giving to them. If the ill treatment is very negligible and it's something you'd rather just forget about and move on, then it's better. Do that. There's no point in getting distracted by every little thing that everybody says. If we become affected by what everybody around us says, then we will never be able to live peacefully. So we should just move on if it's something really small. If it's something so substantial that we are not in a position to bear it, we're not in a position to grin and bear it and forget it, then all right, you may take some measure, as I have mentioned in response to the earlier question. But then move on after that. The problem is when we hold on and we refuse to let go. So we should let go. Once you've done what you had to do, maybe you needed to just tell them that what they did was not right. The way you do it, how you do it, where you do it, when you do it, that's something you have to decide. But once you've done that, now move on. Don't keep it in your mind and keep thinking about it for years and years. So we should go on with our life. We have many important things to do. We have to become a pure devotee of the Lord. Next one. How to cultivate patience during provocative situations so as to not be reactive or rushed in our conversations. Yes, that happens. I think everybody has experienced that sudden flash when anger just erupts within and it comes from the heart, it comes into the mouth, it comes out. Sometimes it comes in the hands and feet and it comes with pots and pans and everything. But we have to be careful. We have to be careful. We were mentioning about Lord Ram, how he would not respond harshly when somebody dealt harshly with him or spoke harshly to him. So if that's possible for us to do, then you win over that person who considers you to be an enemy. You win over that person. That's the best way to be rid of enemies. Make your enemies into your friends. And just by your nice behavior, change their heart. Nobody is really all evil. Everybody has a good side and a bad side within them. So often, if we just deal with people properly, even when we are provoked by them, and we may be to some extent justified in responding to them in equal measure, but still, since we are devotees, if we have that patience to withstand that provocation and respond in a friendly way, it will go a long way. You see, it takes the wind out of the other person's sails. But when you respond like that, then it grows. And one thing is that when one person gets angry and that person is talking to you, then it's not good for you also to get angry. One person gets angry, the other should keep quiet. That's how you can maintain peace. If both get angry, then things go out of control. So how to cultivate that patience? Number one, by practice. And Krishna will give you many opportunities to practice. It happens often. In your domestic life, your work life, your work life outside in the streets, there will be many provocative situations. So number one, by practice. Number two, by hearing and understanding what we should be doing, what's good for us and what's not good for us. And thirdly, just by practicing Krishna consciousness. The more we chant, the more we hear, automatically the modes of passion and ignorance, they step down. One devotee was saying, he was traveling by a train one time, and he was sitting on the seat and putting his feet on the seat across. It was empty, there was nobody there. And somebody came. And he spoke very harshly. I can't repeat those words. But in the local language, he told him, he told him something very harshly about the way he had put his feet there. So he said if I had not been a devotee earlier, what I would have done was, because he asked him if it was his father's property, the man who came. So he said, before I became a devotee, what I would have done is, I would have kept my feet there and said, yes, it is. And what will you do about it? But now that I became a devotee, he said, I changed. I pulled my feet back, down, I wiped the seat, and I said, I'm sorry, please sit. And that man was flabbergasted. The wind was knocked out of the sails. He just didn't know what to do. And then he had a sheepish smile and he sat down. You see, this is the way you can deal with people who provoke you. If you also get provoked, then what's happening is, you have succeeded in letting him or her control you. By his actions or her actions, you get controlled. So if you control your emotions in your mind, no matter who provokes you and what they do, if you retain control of your senses at that time, then you respond nicely and immediately the problem is solved. And that person will also get a message that is not good for him to do this again. Next question. How to excuse ourselves from conversations that turn unnecessary or critical with some sort of unpleasantness when we are amongst senior or other devotees without coming across as rude or arrogant? Does it happen often?
Yes.
Sometimes. Yes. You see, talking ill about others in the sense, in a malicious way, not with constructive criticism. In the course of the talks, I did distinguish between constructive criticism and idle, negative, harsh criticism. Constructive criticism has to be done in a positive way. We have to generate positive energy and see how we can help to solve the problem. We are part of the solution, not the problem. But in negative criticism, we just aggravate the problem. We become part of the problem. We are not part of the solution. So as devotees, we should always try to generate positive energy. There's enough negativity in the world around us. And it will happen every day in our life, even in the community of devotees. After all, what is our devotee community? What is our temple? It's like a hospital. All our temples worldwide and our communities of devotees are like hospitals where patients come for treatment. They are ill and they come for treatment and they're all at varying stages of recovery from the ailments. And they have varieties of ailments. So similarly, everybody in the world has this ailment of conditioned mentality, of forgetfulness of Krishna, because of which we have all these bad habits and bad tendencies. So when we come to the movement, it is not that all of a sudden we just become, Mahabhagavatas. We carry a lot of baggage with us. A baggage of our personality, a baggage of our psyche, a baggage of all these emotional and other things that tendencies we carried forward from so many lives. It's not about to go away just overnight. It will stay. So these tendencies, they sometimes have the nature of coming up again and we manifest them. So we have to be very careful that at least we don't do it. And if we are caught in a situation where some other devotees are doing this, if we are in a position to gently just say, let's stop this topic in a way that you don't come across as being holier than thou or something, but in a delicate way, just give an indication, either directly or indirectly, or you can move away for some other service that you may have to do. But it is not good to participate in negative criticism. Of course, where one is revealing one's mind in confidence, that's a different thing. When somebody is troubled because of some episode that has happened, and that devotee wants to reveal his or her mind, that's a different thing. Then we hear, we try to see, we can help to see the problem solved. And we have to see that the right person does it. Not everybody should step in and then create a very complicated situation. Okay, next question. If a family member is strongly habituated to being critical of others, always voicing his negative observations about others, how to help them overcome this when they are our elders and initiated, and how to stay aloof from this negativity with this unavoidable course of habit. If the person is your family member, then surely you can speak. You can say nicely. You can point out sweetly, pleasantly that it's not a good habit. You can tell that person not to criticize, it's not nice. But don't do it in a way that displays your anger, and so then that will make matters worse. Just do it in a very nice, pleasant way, and surely there will be some effect there. Next question, how do we deal with negative self-talk that goes on inside our minds and hearts, the manifestations of which are external discrepancies in our behavior? Negative self-talk, which means perhaps I presume you mean that you're thinking negatively about some other devotees or something like that. The best solution is to chant Hare Krishna and hear more about Krishna. On many occasions people would approach Srila Prabhupada with so many problems, and he was very practical, and he would often give them practical solutions. But in addition, they wanted some solutions, and sometimes they wanted new solutions. He said, there's no new solution, there's just one solution, chant Hare Krishna. And it works. You chant Hare Krishna well, your mind calms down, your thinking becomes clear, you're able to see what is what, and then you're peaceful. Whenever we are disturbed with something, we're agitated, we should chant. We should sit down peacefully and chant. At one place, Srila Prabhupada said, if you're really in difficulty, chant loudly. When you chant loudly, then everything will go away, all your difficulties will go away. And it works like magic. Try it. The next time you're in difficulty, which won't be so far away, just around the corner. So just practice this. Chant loudly and see how nicely and effectively it works. After hearing the lectures on culture of speech, it is evident that I must speak very respectfully and pleasingly to everyone. But when it comes to home, wife, or kids, sometimes I can't follow the etiquette. So how to improve the culture of speech among family members? I think everybody is nodding wisely because everybody is experienced. The main thing is keep Krishna in the center. When there's too much fighting or quarreling in the house, just calm down, just chant Hare Krishna. There was one elderly devotee I remember some years ago. He was saying, whenever there was a quarrel in the house going on, then he would get his kartal, and all the back and forth was going on, and he would sit and everything would calm down. One reason being they couldn't hear each other shouting. But the deeper reason being that the holy name was having its effect. And you see, many times, silence is golden. Just because somebody says something, you don't have to reply. Sometimes if you don't reply, it becomes a problem. That's another thing. But you don't have to respond aggressively, as I was saying earlier. Just two things that you need to do. Chant, and when necessary, just keep quiet. Keeping quiet calms things down. Not too quiet, because there must be communication. But just back and forth doesn't take you anywhere. Let things calm down, and when everybody or the concerned people are in a more sober frame of mind, then the discussion can continue. Next question, how do we deal with speech in the three different modes, especially the lower ones? Often a mode of ignorance conversation or a passionate attack of words incite a very like-for-like reaction in us. Yes, precisely that. That is why we have to follow the footsteps of Lord Ram and not get provoked. People are going to provoke us, willingly, unwillingly. They will do that. I remember when we were new brahmacharis, even in India, when we were at railway station, we were going around with books or going to some programs. We used to have many provocative situations, provoking situations. We would have people, especially young folk, who would be around and they would mock us and make fun of us. Because there used to be a movie some years before that, which showed the Hare Krishna devotees in bad light, taking drugs and all of that. So when we would go out, and especially if you were alone, and you had this group of people who would stand by and they would provoke you, they would do something like this, imitating you taking drugs, and they would do a mock Hare Krishna dance, and they would sing, and they would be laughing loudly when you were there. Very provocative situation. One time one brahmachari got into a fight with them, and I think he managed to silence them, but it was not a good thing to do. So what to do? That's the way the world is. We have to rise to a higher level of consciousness and not be provoked. The thing to do is when such people are there, if you carry prasadam, just go and give them some prasadam. And immediately they'll calm down a little bit. So that's why we need to cultivate the mode of goodness. And that's why we need to do our sadhana well. That's why we need to hear about Krishna, to chant about Krishna, reflect on all these things that we've been speaking about in these 2 days. And that will help us to not get provoked. That is what we're talking about, culture. This culture of speech is that culture that enables you to move from speech in the mode of ignorance and passion to goodness and transcendental speech. That is what we have to practice and cultivate. Next question. It seems a great deal of self-awareness is required to put into practice these practical principles of speech. I am not very intelligent and sadly not so cultured and educated to know how to use language properly in spur situations. Well, I don't know what you mean by that, but in troublesome situations, I suppose you mean. What is the way forward for a mind obscured by tamoguna? Hear and chant about Krishna. Simple. Just be in the association of devotees and practice these ideas that we have heard over the last 2 days. Keeping the mind focused on Krishna and learning how to deal with practical day-to-day situations is very important. Keep in mind these points. It doesn't matter, you are saying your speech is not so cultured, and you're not so educated, and not so intelligent. Well, I presume you're very humble. But anyway, by practice of Krishna consciousness and by practicing the principles that we have been discussing here yesterday and today, I'm sure you will see a big difference. Next, you spoke yesterday and today about speaking respectfully to elders, not challenging what they say, not criticizing, not raising our voice when we speak. From what I've heard from my parents and family of their relationships and experiences with their parents, there seemed to be a notion of fearful reverence. Does cultured speech cause or lead to somewhat of a distant relationship with our elders? Is this the ideal relationship to have with our parents and elders? Well, there should be, it's not necessarily a situation of awe to such a degree that you're just afraid all the time. That's not it. There should be a genuine loving relationship, a very familiar loving relationship. There should be freedom to speak in the house. The children feel free to speak. The parents feel free to speak. But not in a harsh way. So, I think just plain common sense is what's necessary to have proper loving relationships at home. Everybody feels free, everybody feels comfortable, everybody is talking to each other in a loving way, moving along as a family, sharing everything. That's fair enough. And also it depends on the nature of the personalities involved. Some people are reserved by nature, some people are very forthcoming, more open, so it depends. But the bottom line is that there should be love within the family, centered on Krishna. And yes, you may differ with your elders, if the elders are doing something wrong. But there is a proper etiquette of how you will do that. There are many instances where the children are devotees and the elders are not devotees. In most cases, it is not wise for the youngsters to preach to the elders. But still, you should not give up your Krishna consciousness in such a situation. You should still be respectful. Don't do things to agitate them or disturb them, but do follow your principles of Krishna consciousness properly. Next, I make a conscious effort to remain calm when senior devotees are harsh. However, when it is constant, I want to pay back. How should I pay back in a Vaishnava way? Just what are the things to be kept in mind? See, there are certain things you get free. You don't have to pay back. It's not a loan that you have to pay. It says come free. Just take it. It's not a big deal. Right? It's not the end of the world. And really, if you have a relationship with that senior devotee, you can tell that devotee, that you're feeling hurt because he or she is speaking to you like this. They'll understand. They're devotees as well. No problem. But the important thing, remember, is to never make small issues into big issues. If giving up one's life is sinful, then is giving up the will to live not the same? So is Dronacharya's soul there leaving his body due to his yogic powers, or hearing about the death of his son Ashwatthama not wrong? Well, you see, these are all very extraordinary personalities, and they have the power to decide when they will leave the world. They're not like us, so it's not a comparable situation. For ordinary human beings like us, we may lose the will to live in some case because of some very tragic situation in our life or something like that. But yes, then we should again generate positive energy and move out that negative energy. And certainly suicide and all of these things are not at all meant for humans, and especially not for devotees. Whatever be the miserable situation someone may find himself or herself in, how to get a message across to someone who is close to us, such as one's wife or husband or friend or office colleague, relative, who are nice and good people by nature, but are not at all receptive to our message, which is for their benefit. Well, if they're not receptive, there's not much you can do. Because someone has to be receptive for you to be able to give the message. Often when you try to force other people to receive your message, that will aggravate the situation. So don't force someone to receive your message when the person is not willing. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yathechasi tatha kuru. Arjuna, I have told you my message. Now it's up to you. You want to receive it or you want to not receive it. It's up to you. How can we make a proper routine in devotional service despite having small kids? Well, you can use your good judgment and your good intelligence. You have 24 hours in a day. And put your kids to sleep early. So you have the evening available. You wake up early in the morning. You also go to bed early in the night. Wake up early in the morning. Get your rounds done so that you don't have to worry about the rounds, your japa. And then in the daytime, deal with your children. It's only a matter of time before they grow up. And they will have their own proper routine. So don't consider this as a burden. Consider this also, as Krishna said,